While we've all faced challenges during this global pandemic, many of our WCC students have been stretched to the limit as they have dealt with dramatic reductions in income, food insecurity, trouble making the rent, and then often, as classes move to remote learning, problems getting the necessary digital access. Through its emergency fund, the foundation has tried to help students solve these pressing problems so that they are able to continue their education. Thank you all again for making WCC a priority during this stressful, strange time. Tonight, we'll be talking about getting ready for the holidays from the perspective of those of us lucky enough to shop and prepare whatever we choose for our loved ones. Not everyone has the means to go out and buy the necessary fixings for a celebratory special meal. Thank you for your additional contributions when registering to support a WCC student and their families at Thanksgiving. We collect funds for our Thanksgiving food drive, and $25 provides a meal for one student and his or her family. Many of you generously contributed already, but if you didn't get to do that and would like to help, we'll drop the link in the chat. Before we get started, just a few logistics. During our presentation, you may have questions, and we invite you to submit them by typing in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. We'll get to as many of them as possible. If you have a technical issue, please type tech in the chat and a WCC staff person will reach out to help you. At the end of our event at about 6:15, we will unmute everyone, and those who want to stay for a bit and hang out and socialize a little informally, we would love to have you do that. And just so you know, as usual, we will record the event and share the link in case you have to step away. And now I will turn the mic over to my wonderful conspirator, co-chair, Ruth Sussman, for just a little more stage setting. Ruth?
Thank you so much, Elise. And now I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the people who made tonight possible, starting with our Celebrity Salon and Great Chefs committees. These volunteer leaders normally help us coordinate WCC's Spring Celebrity Salon series and the Fall Great Chef series, but in light of the pandemic, we have joined forces to create a sort of mashup of virtual events by pulling great elements from each of these series, a sort of greatest hits. And of course, we look forward to resuming our in-person events as soon as we can in the future. And until then, keep an eye on your inbox for a few more of these pop-up events that we have percolating. We have sincere thanks that we want to extend to our WCC Foundation board members and to the WCC Board of Trustees. Many of them have joined us tonight. Hi, everyone. And also to Dr. Belinda Miles. She's the president of WCC. Thank you for being with us. And we have several sponsors for tonight's event. These sponsors help ensure that funds raised go directly to help our students through scholarships and to our on-campus food pantry. I hope you'll join me in thanking DeChico & Sons. They are longtime supporters of WCC, and they just opened their latest store in Eastchester last week. I hope you'll get to stop by. DeChico & Sons provides the turkeys at cost for our students during our Thanksgiving food drive, and they help us in so many ways all through the year. Thank you so much, John. Wine Enthusiast has been an enthusiastic sponsor of WCC for many years now. Thank you so much to Sybil and her team. Lucille Werlenick is a member of our WCC Foundation board. She's a staunch supporter of the college and also a culinary maven who's going to join us tonight. Suzanne Yearley is a member of our Great Chefs Committee, and she is a great chef herself. Thank you so much for your extra guidance and support tonight, Suzanne. JP Morgan Chase and Company, also longtime supporters of the college. The Nancy Kennedy team at Houlihan Lawrence, a relatively new friend of the college, but we're grateful to her and her team for supporting us. And Greenwich Investment Management, also generous sponsors to the college. So let me say a word about the college itself. There's over 35,000 people who are taking classes at WCC each year. It makes it Westchester's largest educational institution, actually. And some of our students are heading toward careers in sectors like health sciences, culinary arts, that's what we're talking about tonight, cybersecurity. Some are on track for associate degrees with aspirations to transfer to a four-year college. The tuition to be a full-time student at WCC, it's just under $5,000. And while this may seem like a bargain relative to other institutions, for many of our students, especially those who may be the first in their family to attend an institute of higher education, it can seem like a totally insurmountable sum. And on top of that, we understand, and I know you will understand, that the true cost of attending WCC with books, transportation, food, and the opportunity cost of being in class instead of at your job, it's really closer to about $16,000 a year. And this cost, for sure, feels out of reach. I'm proud to say that during the most recent academic year, our WCC Foundation awarded more than $2 million in scholarship to over 1,000 of our awesome WCC students. I like to say that if we're all together in person, I would pause here so that you could applaud and be so excited for our students and for the great work of the foundation, but I'll just let you do that at home. That's enough for me about the WCC experience. I think the best way to hear about it, of course, would be from a student who's living it herself. So I wanted to take a moment here to introduce you to Charmaine McLaren, whose story I'm sure will inspire you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming to this great event, Celebrating with Melissa Clark, New York Times food writer and columnist, and Bernard Jansen and his extraordinary life skills. We truly appreciate your generosity and efforts by committing to raising funds to provide scholarships for the students at WCC and for our food pantry. Westchester Community College has always been a stepping stone for students to fulfill the needs, and we truly appreciate this. My name is Charmaine McLaren, and I am majoring in culinary arts and hospitality management. I was pleasantly surprised when Professor McGrath informed me that I was the recipient of the Great Chef's Scholarship. It is truly an honor. I first enrolled in WCC in 2014, but because of financial constraints, I was unable to continue, and so I had to put my studies on hold. My decision to resume came with a bit of apprehension and fear, as I felt that being an older student, I would not fit in. But on entering the campus, my fears dissipated, and I was welcomed, and I was determined that I was gonna finish strong and that I would exhibit resilience and tenacity. I always dreamt of putting on a chef's uniform, and WCC has made that dream into a reality. I have volunteered at the Food Bank of Westchester, the Habitat for Humanity, and through our church program, I have prepared thousands of Thanksgiving dinners and done a number of community service throughout my community. The scholarship here to me would not only further my studies, but would also help me to impart the knowledge that I have gleaned to my other persons in my community and also to those who are around me. My plan is to follow in my daughter's footsteps. It's funny because usually the children should follow in the parents' footsteps, but I plan to follow in my daughter's footsteps, who also attended WCC and received a scholarship and transferred to PACE. So at the end of my graduation in December 2021, I plan to transfer to PACE University, where I plan to pursue a bachelor's degree in hospitality management and then do catering. I hope that I can be an encouragement and an inspiration to someone of my age to not let an age become a barrier to your success. And all I can say is never too late. And I thank you all for this opportunity to represent this great institution.
Thank you so much, Charmaine. We really appreciate your making time to come and share your experience and your perspective with us. And you are an inspiration for all of us. Wishing you all the best during your time at WCC and at PACE and beyond.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much again. Tonight, Bernard Jansen, Zwilling's Executive Chef and Culinary Program Manager, will teach us a few things that will make most of us want to ditch the dull knives in our drawers and upgrade our equipment. Located in Pleasantville, New York, Zwilling is part of the storied Henkel brand of knives. Chef Jansen, who is Dutch by birth and has more than 20 years of professional cooking under his belt, will tell us what makes a quality knife, which knife to use for various tasks, how to maintain and properly clean your knives, and he'll demonstrate some actually life-changing knife skills, I think, for all of us. So with that, I give it to you, Chef. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. Welcome everybody live from the Zwilling Cooking Studio in Pleasantville. So Zwilling J. Henkel's, a company that's been around since 1731, more than 285 years of knife making and knife knowledge. Everybody knows us as a cutlery brand. These days we do way more than that. We own some cookware brands as well. We have Stoke, which is enameled cast iron from France. Then we have the Meyer, which is stainless steel from Belgium. Ballerini, coated cookware from Italy. But we also added a glassware line, and last year even electrics. We have an amazing power blender on the market right now. Right now I'm in the Zwilling Cooking Studio, where we normally always teach hands-on live classes. Also, we had to convert into virtual classes, so check out our program on zwillingcookingstudio.com. And tonight I'm going to tell you a little bit about cutlery and I'm going to show you some basic knife skills. So let's talk about knives, and I'm going to show you which knife is the most used knife in the kitchen, which is actually this one. That's an 8-inch chef's knife. That's the most used knife in the kitchen. Then we have a 7-inch Sentoku, and you can see that's a straight blade. So that's for a different technique that's used for a chopping motion. This is the hybrid, the Zwilling Rocking Sentoku. Unfortunately, a lot of people only use this one in the kitchen, which is just a paring knife. We recommend using this one for handheld work. So peeling your foods, cleaning ginger, cleaning garlic. If you still use this one all the time, then I hope we're going to change that after today's live class. Then we have slicing and carving knives, which is a blade that is way thinner than a chef's knife. So it will run way easier to delicate product like fish and meat is. Also great for, of course, your turkey during Thanksgiving. This one is a small prep knife, 5.5 inch. Then we move on to a serrated blade. And we recommend using serration on anything that's hard on the outside, soft on the inside. Of course, your tomatoes, but also your bell peppers, your eggplant, your crusty breads. And I even use a serrated bread on, for example, pineapple. Next is a boning knife, which is a blade which is nice and thin. So you're able to work your way around bones. It has a little bit of flex in it. And the last one is going to be a 7-inch fish fillet knife. And this one actually has a lot of flex, so you can keep that flat on your cutting board while removing the skin of a fillet of salmon, bronzino, trout. So let's talk about the most used knife in the kitchen, which is an 8-inch chef's knife. This is where it starts. This is an entry-level 8-inch knife. It's a stamped knife, and that means that it's one piece of metal with a riveted handle attached. If you're able to invest a little bit more, we always recommend buying a forged knife. And that means it's also one piece of metal, but it comes with a bulky bolster part, this part, and that will give your knife balance and durability. That being said, today I'm going to tell you how to hold a knife. And we always recommend pinching your blade. That means your thumb, you're not holding your blade like this or with a finger on the spine, no. Your thumb should be on the blade on one side, your index finger on the other side, just 3 fingers around the handle, and now you're pinching your blade. This will make your blade an extension of your arm, and you will have more control. And that being said, this bolster part is sort of in the way of my pinch grip. So like 6 to 8 years ago, we had an Italian designer improve this design, and he came up with our latest series, which is our Zwilling Pro series. Still one piece of metal with a bulky bolster part for balance and durability, but he curved out the bolster. So if I put my thumb on the blade on this side, my index finger on the other side, 3 fingers around the handle, nothing is in the way of my pinch grip anymore. And if you ask professional chefs, they often have calluses on the inside of their thumb and index finger, and that's because of a straight bolstered knife. Our new design is also a little bit more efficient because this part in a straight bolstered knife is never sharp. It's hard to resharpen and you can't use it while cutting. In our Swilling Pro series, we're looking at a full edge. So you can use the full length of the blade while making your basic circular rocking motion. Talking about that, I'm going to show you how to make that motion. First of all, the tip of your blade should always touch your cutting board. After pinching your blade, you're going to start up, you're going to drop your blade, you're going to push it forwards, you're going to lift it, you're going to bring it back and start all over. So it should feel sort of like a locomotive. If I would film it from this side, I should be able to see a full circle. Don't apply any power or pressure on your blade. Let the knife do the work. The Swilling blades are super sharp, so you don't need power or pressure. Now we're going to do that while cutting some celery. First tip, a lot of people place their produce like this on their cutting board. And like 80% of the time, I want to have a 90-degree angle from my blade towards my produce. And that means that my body is actually going to move. And what I want to do, I want to align my shoulders with my countertop. So place your celery stick in a 45-degree angle on your cutting board. Same thing with your blade. And then you can actually align your shoulders with your countertop. Use the back part of your blade for cutting. So finally, people are using an 8 or 7 or 10-inch chef's knife, and they're still using the tip. We don't want to do that. We want to use the back part of our blade. Like I said before, drop your blade, push forwards, lift it, bring it back, and start all over. If you're going to practice this at home, don't go fast. Let the knife do the work. Speed will follow. And this is where your produce should be. It should be on the back part of your blade. Up until now, I was holding my celery stick here. A professional chef is always guiding that blade with his left hand. The best way to do that is to create a claw, which you can do by taking an onion to practice. That's the claw. Your thumb, your pinky are always behind your front 3 fingers. Your nails are facing backwards. And now I'm going to place my blade against the middle knuckle of my middle finger like that, making the same motion. And as you can see, as long as everything is behind my front finger, I can't cut myself anymore. I'm also not feeding this celery stick under my blade or pushing. No, I'm bringing my blade and my hand over my celery stick, like that. Still only using the back part of my blade for cutting. I showed you a Santoku blade, which is a blade which comes with a different angle. An Asian style blade is set in an angle of 20 degrees, 10 on both sides, where a Western style blade is set in an angle of 30 degrees, 15 on both sides. So this means Asian knife, sharper angle. They often come with hollow edges like you see here. And that's allowing some air pockets between your blade and your product so it doesn't stick as much. And as you can see, the straight blade is not supporting the rocking motion that well. So this is your chopper blade. I'm going to lift my knife every cut I'm going to make. I'm still going to make a forward motion like this. So downwards and forwards. Why do we want to use this forwards motion? That's actually to enlarge the used length of my blade. Of course, this knife is sharp, celery is soft. I can only also just drop my blade downwards, but then I've been using this part of my blade. If I make a forwards motion, I enlarge the blade at least 3 or 4 times. Using a longer part of your blade means easier cutting. Think in a saw, it's impossible to push a saw through a piece of wood. Once you start using length, you're sawing. Same thing with any knife skills. Using a longer part of your blade makes cutting easier. So right now I'm gonna show you two cuts often used in professional kitchens. I have some carrot. First of all, carrot round, it rolls. That's not safe. I want to create a flat side so it doesn't roll anymore. I'm gonna cut some julienne, which is a matchstick, like 1 by 1 millimeter and like 2 inches long. So that means I'm gonna cut super thin planks like that. After that, I will show you some brunoise, which is an 8-inch square. That means I need some thicker planks. And then just either the circular rocking motion like this to cut my julienne, or with a Asian style knife, sentoku, just downwards and forwards. That's your julienne. Next, we're going to do the same with a thicker plank. Cut thicker sticks. Turn them once. And then cut nice and even cubes. Improving your knife skills will also improve your cooking, because if you're able to make nice and even cubes or slices, you have even cook time. So these are the two basic knife skills. Chopping motion with an Asian style knife, rocking motion with a Western style knife. You can also sign up for our virtual knife skills classes on swillingcookingstudio.com. We're gonna offer you guys 25% off, especially for WCC, on our Swilling US website, so go to swilling.com. 25% of our full assortment, except only the sales items are excluded from that. I will be back at the end for some questions. Thank you very much, and hopefully we can welcome you for one of our virtual events.
Thank you so much, Bernard. I'm pretty sure I need every one of those knives that you just demoed, and I feel like such a heathen, like a barbarian in my kitchen when I see how elegantly you cut things. I'm gonna definitely sign up for one of those classes so I can improve those skills. And my colleague is actually gonna drop that discount code right into the chat for us right now. It's so generous of you to give us the 25% off all of these amazing products. So thank you in advance for that. That will also go out in an email tomorrow with a few other details after this event. So also just to let you know, Bernard's going to join us again at the end of the evening. We're going to take a little time to do something like a little after party if you care to stay on after about 6:15, and he may show us another trick or two then. So just to let you know that as you follow along, I think that some of us are in the kitchen getting ready for dinner, and some of us are just watching with friends. If you want to take a selfie or two and show us what's happening at your home, we wanted to keep that spirit alive with some hashtags. So my colleague, again, at WCC is going to drop some hashtags into the chat so that we can sort of share this fun.
Thank you so much, Ruth. That sounds great. Now I am thrilled to welcome Melissa Clark, the voice of American home cooking. Her upbeat conversational style has given so many the confidence to expand their repertoires in the kitchen. Most appealing to me, Melissa is as much a journalist as she is a culinary star. I have to say, it's almost funny to introduce Melissa because I think we all feel we know her. But for the record, our pal is a staff reporter for the New York Times food section. She writes the popular column, A Good Appetite, and appears in a weekly video series. And during the pandemic, she did a column called From the Pantry that kept many of us going and going. The author of 40+ cookbooks and a regular presence on TV, radio, and social media, Melissa's enthusiasm is authentic and contagious. Best of all, her recipes are forgiving. They allow you to substitute and substitute and substitute again. I know many in attendance have already made some of the delicious dishes in her latest cookbook, Dinner in French, while the rest of us are eagerly awaiting our copies. Born and raised in Brooklyn, Melissa still lives in that now super cool borough with her husband and daughter. who will play a role in her upcoming book called Kid in the Kitchen, which can be pre-ordered starting next month. We will drop relevant links in the chat as Ruth talks to Melissa and we hear about her sources of inspiration and ingredients. Please submit questions to Melissa in the chat and we will answer as many as we can at the end. Now I will pass the mic over to my co-chair who will start off the conversation with a lightning round of questions for Melissa. Ruth?
Thank you so much, Elise. And hi, Melissa, welcome. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Hi, Ruth. I'm excited about this whole evening.
Well, great. Are you ready? Because we're going to start us off, as Elise said, with a Thanksgiving pop quiz.
I'm ready for you.
Okay, sweet potatoes, marshmallows or no marshmallows?
Marshmallows for the kid, no marshmallows for me.
Salad?
Feed them to her.
Salad at Thanksgiving, needed or not?
Yes. Oh my God, gotta be, gotta be.
Cranberry sauce, nuts or no nuts?
Nuts.
Brussels sprouts or string beans?
Brussels sprouts.
So for carbs, cornbread or dinner rolls?
Both.
My kind of girl. Okay, now the main attraction, the turkey. Brine or no brine?
Dry brine in the fridge, not a wet brine.
Got it. Stuffing or dressing, like in the turkey or on the side?
On the side.
White meat or dark?
Dark.
But of course.
Of course.
Okay, bringing it on home to the important stuff, dessert. This is your pie question, part 1. Pumpkin or sweet potato?
Pumpkin.
Apple or pecan?
Both.
And what goes on that pie? Ice cream or whipped cream?
Oh, I think whipped cream.
Do you want to rank
well,
them?
I won't kick ice cream off my plate.
Do you want to rank your pies?
Yes. Pumpkin, pecan, apple.
I could get behind that. Yeah. Okay. And then rolling out to the big picture, Thanksgiving. We're trying to get our heads around this now. Football or no football?
Oh God, no football.
Family style or buffet?
Family style.
What time do you sit down to eat?
6.
Awkward political question from your relative, even if it's on Zoom. Do you ignore them? Do you answer them? Or do you just pour yourself another glass of wine?
I am so lucky in that all of my relatives, we all see the same way. We have the same vision of the world and politics. So it's not going to be awkward. It's just going to be commiserating.
I'm going to have you Zoom into my Thanksgiving.
I will be there. I will commiserate with you.
Okay, so anyone who's a true Melissa Clark super fan, and I'm not admitting to anything or fangirling here or anything, just say like I'm asking for my friend, knows that anchovies find their way into all the nooks and crannies of your culinary universe. But Thanksgiving, do they have a place on our Thanksgiving table?
Oh yeah. Last year I did, was it last year or 2 years ago? 2 years ago, I did a Turkey for the Times anchovy butter stuffed, under the skin. And it was an umami bomb. It was so good because the anchovies just melt and it just, you don't taste anchovy, you just taste like heightened yumminess. So yeah, and we did not tell
everyone to hold on a second while I go Google that and make it immediately. I'll be right back.
Here's the thing, don't tell your kids they're there.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Good tip.
They're not going to notice.
But so that was just to sort of get us started and to set the stage. But we really do want to talk about Thanksgiving and all the other holidays that are coming up and just learn from you, like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do Thanksgiving in a pandemic? It's obviously going to be very different from what we're used to. It's probably going to be much smaller. There'll be a lot more screens and maybe people on Zooms. And we're hoping that you can give us some really specific tips for how to approach Thanksgiving and all the other holidays this year. And I guess we're also hoping that your enthusiasm is going to be contagious because like maybe some of us are suffering from some kitchen fatigue. So,
yeah, I know. We've been cooking a lot. I mean, it's funny because usually the lead up to Thanksgiving is you're not so, you're not spending as much time in the kitchen generally. And, people get excited. I mean, they're cooking this big meal. It's really fun. Often it's the first time people get to cook in a long time. This is different. This feels different. I mean, we all are cooking a lot, if not all the time, most of the time. So I do think it feels different. But at the same time, we just need to take a moment and step back and realize that, okay, this is not Thanksgiving like every other year. You know, it is COVID Thanksgiving. It's a pandemic Thanksgiving. It's going to be different, and it's okay that it's going to be different this year. And it's okay if we have to change our traditions up. You know, maybe we can't make a meal for, you know, we can't invite like 20 of our relatives over. And maybe we can't fly out to see grandma, or we can't, you know, fly to see, or you know, do a long car ride and go to two. I mean, I've there's some years I've gone to 2 Thanksgivings. You know, you go to one at, you do the one at 2 and then the one at 6, right? And this year is just, it's we've got to just accept the fact that it is different. But that doesn't mean not joyous, and it doesn't mean not delicious. And I think that that's where we have to lean into all the things that we can do, and how, and I mean, in a way, I feel like this should be our most decadent Thanksgiving. You know, this is a Thanksgiving where we need to be extremely kind on ourselves. We need to love our family and ourselves a lot, because, you know, it's hard. So if, you know, if you say that you're the kind of person who has wine in the cellar, bring up your best bottle, or you splurge. You know, maybe you don't want to, maybe you've never really felt like splurging on a heritage turkey before. Well, this is your year. You know, maybe you've only wanted to make 1 pie. This is your year to make 3 pies, if that's what you want to do, even if you're only cooking for 4 people or 6 people, because it's very important to be as good and kind to yourself and your family as possible. And I think that, you know, the joy is in the process of doing, you know. This is something that I say about cooking in general. I always say that for me, I mean, obviously I love to cook. I mean, that's what I do. It's my life, but I love it. I don't get tired of it. I mean, okay, I get a little tired of it sometimes, but for the most part, I always get back to that joy. And I always say that when I cook dinner every night, it's like my little dose of weekend every day of the week. Do you know what I mean? It's my chill time. It's my relaxation time. And I'm always finding that joy. And for me, I love to put on music. I love to have my family in the kitchen with me. I love to drink wine while I'm cooking and just have this like lovely kind of mellow togetherness. And that's just me though, because for other people, maybe it's like you kick everybody out of the kitchen. You're like, this is my time, you get out. Maybe you listen to, you know, an audiobook, and, you know, maybe you like, I don't know, like do a Zoom call while you're cooking, which is actually a really nice way to spend time with people. But the point is, you find your joy. And for Thanksgiving, it is even more important to do that. I'm encouraging people with kids to try to get them into the kitchen and help cook this year. I mean, they're home. And, you know, especially if you have, I mean, I have a 12-year-old, if you have tweens or teens, they're not out, you know, usually for Thanksgiving, maybe they have their cousins or they're out seeing their friends. It's different. They're probably going to be home. Invite them in, you know, talk to them, get them cooking with you. Feel free to let them make a mess and then make them clean it up with you. But, you know, try to find the thing that where you're all in it together. And I think that if you can do that, find either, you know, personal joy and also, you know, with your family, I think that will go a long way to making this year different, but just as good. Different, but lovely. So that's my pep talk for getting you excited.
You're making me feel, yeah, I do feel better. I mean, what I hear you saying is something like go big or go home. Like just do, I guess we all will be at home. That's where we're going to be. That's where we've been. And I'm hearing what you're saying about bringing everyone in and making it kind of experiential and just finding the joy. So that's everybody mark your calendar, like find your joy, getting ready for Thanksgiving. But what about you with your family? Do you have specific family traditions or recipes that you're going to lean into this year?
You know, it's funny because our Thanksgiving traditions were always, you know, we all went to my mom's house, my parents' house, and I live in Brooklyn, 3 miles from where I grew up. My mom's in the same house where I grew up. It's this big blue house in Ditmas Park, and my sister I live 3 miles away. My sister lives 1 mile away, so we're very close. And I have a daughter. My sister has a son and a daughter. So, and we have lots of cousins. So there was always people. The last few years, things have been different. Anyway, a lot of my family have not come in to town. So there has been, and my dad died a few years ago. So things have been different anyway. So this year, and then, you know, this year has been really trying for all of us. You know, it's been a really hard year. I'm just being completely honest here. So things were going to have to change anyway. My mom has actually been in and out of the hospital. So we're like, we are kind of emotionally raw on so many levels. And I think so many people can relate to that because we've all had it hard. And, you know, even if you personally haven't gotten sick, you probably know people who have gotten sick. And also just, I feel like listening to the sirens kind of takes a toll on you when you, and we read the news, you know, we know what's going on. So that's, so personally, our traditions have been changing anyway. But it doesn't, but what's specific about this year is it doesn't feel like we're making any headway into what the new thing is going to be. You know, like we're still on hold. It feels like this whole year has just been about being on hold. And so we still feel that way. But yet, you know, I mean, I know that come Thanksgiving Day, I will be on the phone with my sister and she will be asking me for advice, and I will be, you know, getting texts from friends and calls from friends. And I know that, and I feel really good about this. Everyone knows that they can text me or call me with a Thanksgiving question or a cooking question at any time. Like that's just, it's just like, I get those all the time. And especially on Thanksgiving when, you know, it really matters, like you really want the meal to be good. I get a lot of those. And so I know that that is one tradition that is going to be there, that is going to be staying there. And I hopefully will be able to help people, you know, find their yum throughout the entire meal and help them, you know, make that perfect turkey, even if they're going to do parts. Like, I don't know. I mean, we're only going to be 3 of us. It's just going to be my immediate family. We'll go see my mom outside a little bit, but we're not going to sit down for the big meal with my sister and my cousins. And they're going to be having small meals. So maybe we'll do parts instead of a whole bird. And we can talk, I can give you some tips about how to do parts, but no matter what, I mean, it's still, you know, that talking to people and helping them through the meal will always be part of it.
I would like to make part of my new Thanksgiving tradition that I'm also texting you for tips. That we got that covered. We'll after the interview. We'll,
absolutely.
We'll lean into that. Thank you for sharing all that about your family. It was very open of you, and I think that a lot of us relate because we are all experiencing whatever slices of the pandemic are hitting us in whichever parts of our lives, and so it's really kind of you to share. Is there something that you're going to cook or prepare or plan for this year that's just totally fresh? I'm really thinking a lot about the balance when you're putting Thanksgiving together between, and especially you as a writer, as an editor. I mean, how do you make this traditional meal year after year where everyone expects what they expect, the thing that they have year after year after year, and how do you keep that fresh? Like, is there some, I'm asking both, how do you balance that? And also what's the freshness that you're going to bring in this year in a 3-portion version?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing parts. We're definitely not going to do a whole bird because you just can't. I mean, the smallest turkey you can get realistically is an 8 to 10 pounder, and that feeds 6 to 8 people with leftovers. It's just too much for us. So we're not going to do it. And I encourage everyone out there, if you're thinking about not doing a whole bird and doing parts are turkey parts are fantastic. They are actually easier to cook than a whole bird. They come out great. That you can get white meat and dark meat, so everybody in your family can be happy. I mean, if it was up to me, we would just do thighs and necks. I love the turkey necks, but you know, I might be alone in that one.
You and my mom.
But you can get, you know, there's so many different parts to get. And I mean, here's the thing about cooking turkey. Here's really the thing. I mean, cooking the whole turkey, like I said, it's the hardest part. The parts are easy because you have the flexibility to take them off when they're done perfectly. I mean, really, whenever you're cooking meat, pretty much the secret is you put some kind of fat on it, you season it well, you season it ahead, and you throw it in the oven. That's it. It's just not that hard. When you're doing turkey parts, what's great is I encourage people, in fact, right now, I have some shopping for all of you to do. If you want to do turkey parts and you want to do them really well and you want to do a bunch of different kinds.
Yes, we do.
This is the best thing I ever bought. Okay, so I don't know if you know how crazy I am about sheet pans. I love sheet pans. A sheet pan is a big, it's like, I think 13 by 17 inch pan, you know, baking pan with low sides. So it's like a cookie sheet, but a big pan, sheet pan. Go and buy some quarter sheet pans. They are half the size of the big one. They fit in your dishwasher. You can get stainless steel ones. You can throw them in the dishwasher and you can put just a few things on each one. So for your Thanksgiving meal, buy 4 of them. They are cheap. And what's so great about them is that you can put the white meat on one, the dark meat on the other, the Brussels sprouts on another one, and the potatoes on the fourth. And they will all fit in your oven at the same time. And so you can just keep pulling things in and out of your oven. You can do the whole meal practically in the oven. Just set it to 400 degrees and just throw everything in and out. And it just will take the stress off of you, because you will just watch, you will check on things, and you know what, when they're done, take them out. So this is going to change your life. And I really, I just strongly advise all of you, you can use, 9x9 pans, like a brownie pans, but they have higher sides. So you're not going to get the same kind of browning. So like I said, this is going to be, if you buy 4 quarter sheet pans, you'll probably spend maybe $40, and you'll have them forever, and you will constantly thank me.
You heard it first, right here. It's just changing your life, changing my life. I mean, you're making me think about shopping for Thanksgiving, and sometimes specialty ingredients and things. I think things are pretty stable in the grocery stores near me, although from time to time I still can't find things as easily as I could before the pandemic. Do you have any places any online resources or ideas about where to get specialty ingredients for Thanksgiving and for all the holidays?
Well, I mean, I would start with the farmer's market. If you have a local farmer's market, I think you guys definitely do. Okay, so here's something about turkey. If you're not buying the whole bird, you can buy it ahead and freeze it. Because, if you're buying, like, where are you going to put a 20-pound turkey? In the old days when we cooked 20-pound turkeys, there's no room at least not in my freezer, to buy that ahead and freeze it. But and also then it takes days and days to defrost it. If you're buying parts, I'm planning on doing this weekend at the Brooklyn Farmers Market. I'm going to buy, we'll do a chunk of breast, and we'll do some thighs, right? And maybe I'll even get a neck as well. And I'm going to freeze them. And then I don't have to, the last minute shopping the weekend before Thanksgiving is hell. And it's like, so try to avoid that. So I would say the things that you can get ahead, like the turkey that you can freeze, and then, if any canned products or shelf stable products, butter you can buy right now. So I would say, get all those things. As far as online resources, I mean, I know you guys have great shopping up in Westchester, so I'm not sure really, in terms of online stuff. For spices, there's some great spice merchants out there. I've mentioned them before. There's Calustians, there's Burlap and Barrel, there's La Boite for spices. I'm trying to think of what other things that you might want to mail order ahead. I mean, for Italian products, there's Gustiamo, but I don't know what you would really buy for Thanksgiving. Pasta.
No, it's good. And my colleague from WCC is going to be getting those recommendations organized and dropping them into the chat for people who are trying to keep up with that, or we'll send it out tomorrow. But
Ruth, you had mentioned before about fresh ideas. And I just wanted to say, this is one opportunity, because this is just, you're probably cooking for a smaller group than usual. This is actually a great time to try out recipes that you're maybe a little nervous to do for 20 or 40, if that's your normal Thanksgiving table, right? So I would say now's the time to try something new. Try a recipe. Maybe you want to try anchovies in your turkey. Maybe you want to try a spice rub turkey, a turkey with, Indian spices, or with harissa paste and preserved lemon. This is your time to play. So that could be, if you're an adventuresome cook, but you're loath to try something new on Thanksgiving, which is, makes perfect sense. This is actually your year. So I would say, I would just encourage people to totally go for it. I know that one thing, I mean, I'm not sure what our menu is going to be, but I can tell you some of the things I've been working on for the times, kind of give you guys a sneak peek, and that way you'll know what's coming, so you can, start thinking about it. One idea that we're doing, and we just shot a video for this, which is actually going to be really fun, is we're calling it One Pan and One Pot Thanksgiving. So this is for people who maybe you're stuck at home and you've never cooked Thanksgiving dinner at all. And this is going to be your first Thanksgiving dinner, because you can't go home. You can't go to mom. You can't go home to your aunt or your grandma, or your grandfather, I shouldn't be sexist, or your uncle who usually cooks. So this is or this is for someone who, it's also great for a small Thanksgiving. And you really can make the whole thing in one pot and one pan in under 3 hours. And the menu it's turkey breast wrapped in bacon. So because It just,
I
I
go
mean,
wrong.
because why not, right? And also, you know, bacon just bastes the breast and it keeps it really moist, and turkey breast can sometimes dry out. So this just makes, this really gives you so much leeway. It's fabulous. And on the same pan, you do Brussels sprouts with coriander, and you also do your sweet potatoes. And what I did was I did little sweet potato boats. So individual sweet potatoes are baked, and then I seasoned them with molasses and nutmeg, and then put marshmallows on top and rebaked them. So imagine a stuffed potato. Yeah. So, and can I just tell you, the marshmallows, I did them when I was testing them. I had my marshmallow. My daughter just came and ate all the marshmallows off the top of all of them. And I was like, you know what? That is fine with me because I don't really want them and I want the insides. You want the marshmallows. We're all happy. And by the way, that was your dessert. So,
I give her 10 points. I like the sneaking through the kitchen and sweeping off all the marshmallows.
I was just like, where did they all go? And then cranberry sauce and stuffing you do on the pot, and gravy on the stove. So it's a really streamlined, easy way, and it's the recipes are delicious.
I like that.
Yeah, so that's something, but that's for it's a very classic meal. I also have a menu for Thanksgiving specifically for 2 people. And so all the dishes are scaled for 2, because what if it's just 2 of you? And I think, and so that's turkey thighs and roasted, and oh my gosh, they're so good with just, you know, marinated roasted turkey thighs. And then what I did was I did pickled onions, and pickled cranberries. So instead of doing a classic cranberry sauce, which you could also do on the side, but I took an easy way to make pickled onions. You thinly slice red onions, you add lime juice, a pinch of salt, and a pinch of sugar, and let it sit, and it becomes this beautiful pink, pickly onion, basically. And I often serve those with tacos. They're fantastic on turkey, and then you throw some cranberries in, they get even pinker, and it's just this lovely, fresh thing to do. And then I have some other recipes out. I think a sticky toffee pudding for 2, pumpkin sticky toffee pudding.
Oh, are you going to publish that one?
Yeah, they're all coming out. You're going to get them all. All of these recipes are coming out.
Oh, very exciting.
Yeah, and I think there's greens sauteed with smoked paprika, and then there's a bread and butter stuffing with herbs. And so if you are 2 people, we've got you covered. The recipes out there. And then also my colleague Samin Nosrat is doing her buttermilk brined chicken as a turkey recipe, and that'll be for a small bird. So there's going to be so many options at NYT Cooking.
Great. You've done it. You've gotten us excited again. I feel like you're shaking off all of our kitchen fatigue, and I wonder sometimes if like we're suffering from some sort of home cooking exhaustion, or is it that we're just building our home culinary muscle, and these holidays might actually be, you know, we have this great baseline and things might end up feeling surprisingly easy.
I think you're right, actually, Ruth. I think that's exactly right, because I think because we're cooking a lot, we are used to being in the kitchen, you know, like we are primed and ready to go. It's like if we were racers, you know, we'd be like in good shape. So I do think that Thanksgiving is going to be, I think it's going to be easier for people this year. And also because it is smaller, it probably is going to be smaller. So that's going to be easier too. So if you're stressed out generally by Thanksgiving, I'll bet you'll be less stressed this year.
Okay. On that note, let's pivot and let's talk a little bit about your cookbooks. You're a prolific cookbook writer. I knew that was true when I looked at my own kitchen shelf and I thought, that's Melissa Clark, that's Melissa Clark. But this is the one that we really are sending out to everyone tonight, because let's see, there it is. Dinner in French. I know you have another one coming out soon. For this book, in Dinner in French, you talk a lot about growing up in Brooklyn and about spending your summers in France. And in many ways, this is like your origin story as a chef and as a recipe writer. Would you say a little bit about how that fusion of experiences, the sort of French countryside and the urban Brooklynite pieces, shaped you and as a chef and a recipe writer?
Yeah, they're both really important. You know, I think the biggest thing I learned in France was, you know, this was back in the 80s before farm to table was really a thing. I mean, it was a little bit in California, but not in New York when I was growing up. But that's how people ate in France. I mean, that's just what you did. You went to the market, you bought your food, and then you went home and cooked it. And all of the stuff at the market was local. And to me, it just made perfect sense, but I hadn't seen it before. I mean, I hadn't been to farmers markets before. You know, they were just beginning at that moment. And plus I was a kid, we just didn't go in New York. You know, I think the Union Square Farmers Market back in the 80s, it was like 1 day a week, and also Union Square was kind of sketchy back then.
Yeah,
so
that wasn't a thing.
it wasn't a thing, right? So, but it was a thing in France, and we would plan our meals like every single day. We would go, there was always a market in some little town near where we were staying, and we would get the market schedule, and we would just go. So we house exchanged, and so whenever we went to France, we would go to some fabulous, house in the middle of a cute French town, and the poor French people would go to, 1980s Brooklyn. So, which was not
all without the internet, by the way. It was a tremendous leap of faith, right?
Exactly, without the internet, right? We had to type letters out on airmail stationery, with that light blue,
That thin blue paper,
yeah. Exactly, and mail it out, and just hope that the house method, and they would get, so in order to get a house to exchange, there would be this catalog, this big thick catalog would arrive, and everybody would list their house and the amenities, and sometimes there'd be a picture, but mostly not. And then you would write letters, and people would send you pictures, but you never really knew if what you were getting was going to match their description. And some houses were nicer than others. I mean, mostly it was great because we were in France. We didn't care. But I always felt a little bad for the French people, It's like, okay. But I think they were pretty excited to be in New York. So, and like I said, I grew up in this big house in Ditmas Park. So they always at least had a lot of room, which I think was good because, when you're traveling with a family, and, so the four of us, and often we had families in France and who were, 4, 6, 8 people. And it's hard to go to New York and stay somewhere unless you're in a big house. So it really worked out, I think, for both ends. But it gave us a kitchen, and we cooked almost every meal. Although my dad also, his aim in life was to go to every Michelin-starred restaurant in France, which he didn't do, but he came pretty close. And we would go to all these different restaurants, and, my parents would take my sister and me because they weren't going to leave us. So we would go to these restaurants, have these amazing lunches. Usually what we do is we'd go to the market in the morning and we'd buy all this stuff, and then we'd drive to a restaurant for lunch, and we'd have this amazing lunch, and then we'd come home and take a nap, and then we would have dinner.
There would be a nap in there.
God, yeah. Oh, yeah. And yeah, it was dreamy. And I really learned about the importance of going to the market that day, finding the freshest ingredients, and coming home and cooking them. And yeah, I feel like, we would go to the supermarket, but really we shopped at the markets. So that was pretty important for me. And that was why when finally I started going to the farmer's market, when I got, in tune to the farmer's markets, I was like, okay, to this day, that is my preferred way of shopping. I love farmer's markets. I also belong to a CSA. So I think that, and I mean, I think right now it's really fashionable, and not fashionable. I think it's become part of our sort of our zeitgeist, as cooks. I think most people cook this way, but I was an early adopter, I think, because of my France experiences. And then of course, growing up in Brooklyn, I value a bagel above all bread. Almost most breads. I love a bagel. And
an important place.
What?
They have an important place in our lives.
Exactly. Exactly. And I don't, my mother sometimes would put bagels in her stuffing, her Thanksgiving stuffing. They don't belong there, but
Seems like that would get a little chewy. Yeah.
They have a place. And also, living in New York, I had easy access to international ingredients, which was, I was shopping at Sahadi when I was a kid. I was shopping at Calustian's when I was a kid, Balducci's. I was, even before I ever went to Italy, because we just went to France. I never went to Italy until I was a teenager. And it was but I had, I was able to get these great ingredients. So that was really important. And I just, I hope that and it was fun. It was really fun to be able to find all this stuff, and to go to Chinatown and see, to be able to just really have these great international experiences. So that was New York, and then France was all about shopping, and putting them together is really what I love to do when I cook.
And then I know that you cook a lot with your daughter now, and I wonder, are you repeating some of the sort of culinary parenting that you experienced as a child with your own child? I'm not necessarily asking, are you taking her to France for a month every summer? Although maybe I'm asking that. And and I know that your cookbook that's coming out is about cooking with her.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how that works with you, your daughter, and your family, and tell me about that tradition coming through the generations.
I mean, I cooked with my parents. Mostly, I feel like, you know, pretty much when you start cooking, every kid kind of just wants to make dessert so they can eat the batter, right? Like that's what it's all about, right? So that was me. That was me. That's my daughter. She's always like, I'm like, you want to bake a cake? She's like, yeah, but can you tell me when the fun part comes? And the fun part means I can mix the flour and baking powder and baking soda myself. But when the sugar comes out, I should call her because, you know, she's over there on the couch reading a book and she doesn't want to. It's like 5 minutes. So, you know, I should not call her for those 5 minutes.
Right. No kid wants to come in for the baking soda like that. I get it.
Totally. But she's also, I mean, she's also, you know, she helped. So, but she's getting more and more involved and more interested. And now she's a very good salad maker. She's excellent at brownies. She can make shortbread all by herself without me. And I'm always trying to teach her things, but I'm not pushing it on her. You know, I mean, I make her make the salad because she loves it. Salad is her favorite savory food. And so I made sure that she got really good at it.
Sounds like a complete menu to me, you know, salad, brownies, and shortbread.
Right, totally. I actually, yeah. That's it, on some days, that's how it goes at our house. She's definitely less interested in learning how to make quesadillas, but she'll, you know, she loves quesadillas, so she's learning. And I think that, you know, when you're cooking with kids, I always say, get them to cook the things that they want to eat. You know, that's really important. And then make sure they clean up. Huge important things because you want to teach them how to be good citizens of the kitchen going forward. So that's really, I think, important. And that's what we're doing with her. And she's 12. Yeah, and she's got, you know, she's learning how to get good with a knife. As far as the kid book in general, you know, writing it was funny because writing it was great because I was writing it through her eyes. But as I was writing it, and I took recipes, like a lot of classic recipes, and I didn't want to talk down to kids, you know, because you know, I just feel like I mean, not talk down to kids, but I wasn't going for like little kids. I was going for tweens. And, you know, so I wanted to, right. You know, they get it. They
Someone could read it with you. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's not like I had to, you know, I have like a lot of kid cooking, you know, cookbooks for little kids really are like, okay, be careful of the stove. Oh, you better be careful of that sharp knife. And that's not what I was going for. I was going for, all right, how do I get you excited about cooking and get you involved so you can do it by yourself? And what I did was I really took apart the recipes and I started to tease out details that I take for granted. Like, how do you know when the oil's hot? You don't want to touch the oil. So, but how do you know? Like, I mean, you don't want it to smoke. It's not going to sizzle. And I was like, oh, well, it thins out. And so like putting in a lot more visual cues and a lot more timing and, you know, really like, these are the things to watch for. Like one thing I often do when I do a recipe, when I talk about adding garlic is, you know, you want to saute it, but don't let it turn brown, I might say. And so for the kid, it's like, well, what are they supposed to do if it starts to turn brown? You know, so it's like, it's anticipating giving them the solution, not just what to avoid, but how to avoid it. So I would rewrite a recipe as, okay, so the oil starts to thin out, and that's how you know when it's hot enough to add the garlic. Then add the garlic and, you know, cook it until you can smell it. Don't walk away from the stove. You know, you got to stay there. Don't look at your phone. And if you see corners of it starting to get too brown, just pull the whole skillet off the heat. Like, and
I think we can all use this cookbook, Melissa.
That's what I'm saying. And as I was writing, I was like, you know, this is actually kind of helpful for a lot of people. So I would say it is a tween cookbook and, you know, really, you know, perfect for kids, say, precocious 9-year-olds, even precocious 8-year-olds, but really it's meant for like 10 through 14. But you have a kid who's going to college who's never cooked before, this would work for them too.
Well, I happen to know that it's available for pre-order on Amazon, right?
Yep.
And I know that my colleague at WCC is going to drop some of these things into the chat and we'll send everything out again tomorrow. But I want to pivot one last time because we have invited people to send questions and they are like streaming in like we're at the United Nations and solving world problems. So I want to get through as many as we can. We have until about, I just want to remind everyone who's watching, we have until about 6:15 for this part of the program. And then from 6:15 to about 6:30, we're going to switch from panelist view and go into a sort of the Brady Bunch view, a little bit more informal. I know Melissa has a hard stop. We may stay a little further after that. Bernard's going to stay also for that portion and show us more on knife skills. One question has come in that is asking, are those all cookbooks behind you? And if so, how do you organize them?
Okay. Yeah, those are all cookbooks behind me. Some of them are, they're all food books. They're not, some of them are books about, you know, their culinary novels or memoirs. But yeah, this is because I'm in my office right now, which I actually also share with my daughter when she's learning from home. So she and I do a little dance with the office. But yeah, so these are all cookbooks and books about food. I have another shelf over there that you can't see that is all other books. And it's really messy over there, so I'm not going to pivot the camera. But how do I organize them? I organize them by whim. I just, I have it, I know what they are in my head. I mean, loosely, I've got that part of, over here is all baking books. I have that divided up into sweet baking and bread baking. Then I have, you know, regional cookbooks, so all by regions. Then I have things like meat cookbooks, vegetarian or vegetable-based cookbooks, cookbooks by certain personalities. Like I have a whole Diana Henry section because I love Diana Henry. She's a British food writer. If you don't know her, she's amazing. I have a whole section by Ottolenghi because, you know, yeah, so that's kind of how it goes. I get sent a lot of cookbooks because I will do cookbook reviews for the Times. So publishers have put me on their list. So I get a lot of cookbooks. I have no room. So if I take a book off the shelf and put another book, a new book in there, it's a big deal.
Good to know.
You got to do in with one, you got to get out with one because there's just no more space. For a while I had big piles all over the floor, but I have cleaned those up.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that. We all have some inspiration and also a little bit of permission to go organize by whim, which is like the best way to organize. We have a question about butter. It's this person says that many traditional recipes call for butter, but I don't cook meat with dairy products. So do you, other than olive oil, do you have some substitution suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, olive oil is great, of course, but, you know, think of all the amazing animal fats, you know, schmaltz, think of chicken fat, of duck fat. You can buy, you know, one great thing about having the sort of artisan butchers around and even in the supermarket, you can buy duck fat and you can get duck fat online. Oh, here's another online source for you, D'Artagnan. D'Artagnan online will sell you duck fat and it's heavenly. It's just so good. And it's great with meat. And you don't have to just use it with duck. You can use it. I use it with chicken. I actually use it with potatoes all the time. I love it to saute greens. You can put it on a roast beef. So think of other animal fats. Also render all the fats from whenever you're cooking meat. Like if you ever do a prime rib, sometimes I'll do prime rib for the holidays for Christmas. And you get a lot of fat off of that. Keep that fat. Just take it, scrape it, put it in a jar, and then you have that in your fridge.
Label it.
Definitely label it. Yeah, and you know, watch it carefully. Maybe you want to freeze it if you're not using it that often, but just keep those fats. So those are great. And then also you can, you know, sometimes you want to enrich something at the end, and so you don't need a cooking fat, but maybe something richer that isn't butter. Like for example, tahini is a great way to enrich a sauce, you know, or using mayonnaise, like a homemade aioli or homemade mayonnaise is another great way to enrich a sauce that doesn't have a dairy product in it.
That's great. Thank you so much. You're reminding me that my grandmother used to keep a little like bowl or jar of schmaltz, chicken schmaltz in the refrigerator, and as a snack would offer it to me on rye bread, which at the time I thought was like truly the most disgusting thing that anyone could possibly conceive would be a snack. And then, you know, by the time I kind of came around to thinking, oh, that might be kind of good, then I knew it was so unhealthy that I probably had to temper that a little bit. Here's another question. This has come up in several guises, frequently related to cooking whole turkeys. Cooking disasters, like how do you recover? And yeah, just how do you recover without going through any of, I don't want to call anyone out on their own cooking disasters, or unless you'd like to offer one up.
Yeah, no, okay, so strategy number one, if it's possible, say if something comes out not like you thought it was going to come out, but it's still okay. Just change the name to adjust people's expectations. For example, I have served bitter eggplant salad. I have served, you know, like if I've had I've served like, you know, like say that you have a cake and it doesn't rise, you know, you call it a tort. So you're like adjusting expectations. Lemon juice and salt will fix a lot of flavor problems at the end. As will butter if you're using butter. Often if you add butter, it's gonna taste great. Yeah, you know, if something's undercooked, don't be afraid to put it back in the oven. You know, don't take like, I know that undercooked turkey is like a big thing. Like people, you know, it's like the breast cooks and legs don't cook and that you think it cooks, because here's the thing, how unreliable are meat thermometers? So unreliable, right? You're like, you put that thermometer in, you're like, it's 165, and then you cut it open and it's raw. Okay, that is not your failure. That's just what happens. So do not consider that a cooking failure. That is a minor little setback. You just carve those legs off and you pop them back in the oven for a few minutes and they are going to be fine. So another thing is, you know, don't take it personally too. You know, don't think of things as failures. Think of them as like, okay, it's an obstacle. All right, I got to deal with it. It's like, you know, it's like when you're driving and, you know, the road is closed and you're like, oh, I have to go around. It's a pain, but you're going to get there.
And that may be where that kitchen glass of wine comes in.
It makes it so much better, let me tell you.
Okay, here's our next question. Someone says that they're in a pandemic dinner cooking rut. What should I make for dinner tonight? And what are you making for dinner tonight?
I can tell you exactly what I'm making for tonight. So my husband has been baking sourdough bread, and he's been doing it before the pandemic. He's not just like a pandemic sourdough baker. And he's gotten really, really good. So he has this great loaf of bread, and we're gonna have sardine toast. So when I do these events, you know, I have to like scurry for dinner. So we often have sardine toast, which I love so much. So really good bread, thick butter, thinly sliced onion or scallion, delicious sardines. Here's the thing, you must have lemon juice, olive oil, and I like smoked paprika right on top, and it is so good. So we'll have that and a big salad. My daughter will not touch those, so she's gonna have leftover chicken. My daughter often will eat, if she won't eat what we're eating, which is anything, she won't eat most fish, unfortunately. So we always have sausages, and we'll just throw a sausage in the broiler for her. She eats a lot of sausages and hot dogs.
So when I was preparing for tonight, I had all my show and tell. I have my book, and I knew, because I'm, you know, a bit of a super fan, I knew that I was gonna ask you about anchovies. So for fun, I brought like my anchovies, which is, this is a—
Oh, the Doppel Carte, you got them. They're amazing.
They're the best. And then
oh my
I also brought sardines because that's one of our go-tos in our house too. And I thought that you're very validating for me, because I thought that we were kind of crazy. Like, it's not everyone that comes over wants that for a snack, but that is definitely a big sort of late afternoon snack in our house. But now I'm going to go back and paprika it. What's that?
Do you ever put them on Triscuits?
No, we don't.
Sardines on Triscuits. If you don't have good bread, we always have Triscuits. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, that's a lot of texture going on. I love that.
It is, you know, with the soft sardine and it's so good. Oh,
So
I love that you love sardines.
we do. And it makes me think about pantry staples, which I know was really very much your beat over the pandemic. And on behalf of like everyone who reads the New York Times, we really appreciated it. Everyone on this call, that was the main thing that people said when we said that we were inviting you to be a part of this program. They said, oh, those pantry, those articles really helped me get through. So we appreciated that pivot. Are there other like pantry staples that you think people should have in their pantry but probably don't?
I mean, it's a really good idea to have a lot of options when it comes to things like vinegar, hot sauces. You know, definitely, I think one thing people tend to ignore is their spice drawer. I think they buy spices once and leave them there for a couple of years and think, well, I didn't use it up. But I would say that, you know, variety when it comes to vinegars, citruses. I always keep lemons, limes. If I could get Meyer lemons, key limes, different kinds of oranges, because all of those add so much flavor to foods, and it's just super easy to have them there. And then lots of different vinegars, you know, aside from your normal red wine, white wine, balsamic, and sherry vinegar. You know, I have things like I have a pear vinegar from Italy, which is delicious. I I have a malt vinegar, which is like like a British malt vinegar. I have a sugarcane vinegar, and all of these add just, and cider vinegar, of course. They add just such different flavors. So they're not just sour, they have complexity. So I would say that, buy a couple more vinegars. Hot sauces, don't just have one. I mean, I know I have Tabasco and Crystal, but then there's so many different kinds of hot sauces. Consider doing things like pickling your own onions. Like I just described the pickled onion recipe. We always have pickled onions, and those are great on sardines. Oh my God, pickled onions on sardines, amazing. And it's so easy. It's just thinly slice the onion, lime juice, salt, sugar, let it sit for, 20 minutes and it's done. And then keep it in your fridge.
How long does that last in your fridge? Because I feel like I have some from a long time ago.
Well, first of all, open it up and smell it. If it smells fine, it's fine. It's not going to like sneakily hurt you. Do you know what I mean? Like if it's moldy, you're going to see it or you're going to smell it. Probably what's going to happen is it'll get like a little weird kind of fermenty flavor, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's not what you want. And then you toss it. But it'll last probably it'll last a month, depending on how much lime juice. So, but it does get a little funky. Like I'd say it's best within a week because it can get a little fermenty.
Okay. So now we're up to our last question, and I'm going out on a limb here, because I feel like a super fan, but now I'm starting to think that maybe this other person is more of a super fan, because this is very off topic. But we have an attendee who wanted to know what's in your flask at the opera, because you always mention it in your Instagram.
Oh my God. Okay. Yes. Bourbon is in our flask at the opera. Oh, I miss the opera.
What kind of bourbon do you like?
Different kinds right now. We love, there's a Four Roses, like small batch kind of thing, or small barrel or something. I have to say my husband is sort of in charge of filling the flask. So, but we like that one. We like Woodford Reserve is really good.
I like that too.
Yeah, it's a really good bourbon. That's the one so I have a really good friend in Italy, and when I go visit her, in fact, we do these tours in Italy sometimes. We were supposed to do one this past September, but we had to cancel it. We'll do it next year instead. Her name is Elizabeth Minchili. I think her website is like Elizabeth in Rome, but Minchilli. You should look her up. And whenever I go visit her in Rome in her fabulous house, I bring her a bottle of Woodford Reserve.
That's very nice. I would say that one of the upsides to the pandemic has been that we do not need to worry about decanting our bourbon into flasks. We can just pour it, because we're already home and we can go help ourselves. And on that note, I want to be mindful of the time and honor what we told you that we would do, and all of our guests what we would do, and switch back over to Elise so that we can say thank you so very much. Just a quick reminder that we're going to stay on for another 15 minutes, but for those of you who need to jump, I invite you if you have to do that. But Elise? Well, Elise is
there. I was blocked for a moment, a little Zoom issue as always. Thank you so much, Melissa. I so enjoyed listening to you and Ruth talk just now. We really appreciate your taking the time to inspire us about the possibilities of creating memorable, happy, and delicious moments during this difficult year. I have no doubt there will be many dinner prep times when we rely on what we learned here and turn to your books to figure out how to turn a dark, cold winter evening into a warm, rejuvenating moment to refuel our minds and bodies with a doable and delightful meal. It's really just inspiring to listen to you talk about how these things can happen. And I want to thank again all our guests for attending, and mention how much your attention and caring means so much to the students and the whole WCC community. And Melissa, thank you for being a part of that and for supporting the college. We hope you've had a great time tonight, all of you. Melissa, you too. I know you made us all have a great time. And if you're able to do so, those of you on the call, if you'll consider making an additional donation by supporting one of the WCC students with a Thanksgiving meal, we thank you in advance for your additional generosity. And Bernard, Chef, thank you for your terrific demonstration and game-changing tips. Can't wait to use the generous Zwilling discount to replace my ancient dull knives. And I also want to thank everyone at the college, in particular Sue Mackey and Jess Stanero, without whom this evening would simply not be possible. And Ruth, I turn it back to you.
Thank you. I also want to thank Sue and Jess, who are the magicians who make all of this work, and also our dear friend Suzanne Yearley, who was a guiding light as we tried to figure out how to structure this to get the most out of our time and Melissa's generous donation of her time. We hope that we'll see you again at our next event. Keep an eye on your inbox for the next pop-up. And if, like I've been mentioning, if you have a little time right now, you're invited to our Zoom after party. We're going to stay on this link for another 15 minutes or so, Brady Bunch style. And what's going to happen is the WCC staff is going to unmute everyone and switch us from panelist view to whatever the other view is called, attendee view. And so I'm going to ask you to bear with us for a few minutes as we shift gears and turn on everyone's video. And I invite you really do